آل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما يريد الشيطان أن يوقع بينكم العداوة والبغضاء في الخمر والميسر ويصدوكم عن ذكر الله وعن الصلاة فهل أنتم منتهون وأطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول واحذروا فإن توليتم فاعلموا أنما على رسولنا البلاغ المبين. ليس على الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات جناح فيما طعموا إذا ما اتقوا وآمنوا وعملوا الصالحات ثم اتقوا وآمنوا ثم اتقوا وأحسنوا والله يحب المحسنين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ليبلونكم الله بشيء من الصيد تناله أيديكم ورماحكم ليعلم الله من يخافه بالغيب فمن اعتدى بعد ذلك فله عذاب أليم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقتلوا الصيد وأنتم حرم ومن قتله منكم متعمدا فجزاء مثل ما قتل من النعم يحكم به ذو العدل منكم هديا بالغ الكعبة أو كفارة طعام مساكين أو عدل ذلك صيام ليذوق وبال أمره عفى الله عما سلف ومن عاد فينتقم الله منه والله عزيز ذو انتقام. أحل لكم الصيد البحر وطعامه متاعا لكم وللسيارة وحرم عليكم الصيد البر ما دمتم حرما واتقوا الله الذي إليه تحشرون. جعل الله الكعبة البيت الحرام قياما للناس والشهر الحرام والهدى والقلائد ذلك لتعلموا أن الله يعلم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وأن الله بكل شيء عليم. اعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب وأن الله غفور رحيم. ما على الرسول إلا البلاغ والله يعلم ما تبدون وما تكتمون. قل لا يستوي الخبيث والطيب ولو أعجبك كثيرة الخبيث فاتقوا الله يا أولي الألباب لعلكم تفلحون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تسألوا عن أشياء إن تبد لكم تسؤكم وإن تسألوا عنها حين ينزل القرآن تبد لكم عفى الله عنها والله غفور حليم. قد سألها قوم من قبلكم ثم أصبحوا بها كافرين. ما جعل الله من بحيرة ولا صائبة ولا وسيلة ولا حام ولكن الذين كفروا يفترون على الله الكذب وأكثرهم لا يعقلون. وإذا قيل لهم تعالوا إلى ما أنزل الله وإلى الرسول قالوا حسبنا ما وجدنا عليه آباءنا أو لو كان آباؤهم لا يعلمون شيئا ولا يهتدون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا عليكم أنفسكم لا يضركم من ضل إذا اهتديتم إلى الله مرجعكم جميعا فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا شهادة بينكم إذا حضر أحدكم الموت حين الوصية اثنان ذو عدل منكم أو آخران من غيركم إن أنتم ضربتم في الأرض فأصابتكم مصيبة الموت تحبسونهما من بعد الصلاة فيقسمان بالله إن ارتبتم لا نشتري به ثمنا ولو كان ذا قربى ولا نكتم شهادة الله إنا إذا لمن الآثمين. فإن عثر على أنهما استحقا إثما فآخران يقومان مقامهما من الذين استحق عليهم الأولين فيقسمان بالله لشهادتنا أحق من شهادتهما وما اعتدينا إنا إذا لمن الظالمين. ذلك أدنى أن يأتوا بالشهادة على وجهها أو يخافوا أن ترد أيمان بعد أيمانهم واتقوا الله واسمعوا والله لا يهدي القوم الفاسقين. يوم يجمع الله الرسل فيقول ماذا أجبتم قالوا لا علم لنا إنك أنت علام الغيوب. إذ قال الله يا عيسى ابن مريم اذكر نعمتي عليك وعلى والدتك إذ أيدتك بروح القدس تكلم الناس في المهد وكهلا وإذ علمتك الكتاب والحكمة والتوراة والإنجيل وإذ تخلق من طين كهيئة الطير بإذني فتنفخ فيها فتكون طيرا بإذني وتبرئ الأكمه وأبرص بإذني وإذ تخرج الموتى بإذني وإذ كففت بني إسرائيل عنك إذ جئتهم بالبينات فقال الذين كفروا منهم إذا هذا إلا سحر مبين. وإذ أوحيت إلى الحواريين أن آمنوا بي وبرسولي قالوا آمنا وأشهد بأننا مسلمون. إذ قال الحواريون يا عيسى ابن مريم هل يستطيع ربك أن ينزل علينا مائدة من السماء قال اتقوا الله إن كنتم مؤمنين. قالوا نريد أن نأكل منها وتطمئن قلوبنا ونعلم أن قد صدقتنا ونكون عليها من الشاهدين. قال عيسى ابن مريم اللهم ربنا أنزل علينا مائدة من السماء تكون لنا عيدا لأولنا وآخرنا وآية منك وارزقنا وأنت خير الرازقين. قال الله إني منزلها عليك فمن يكفر بعده منكم فإني أعذبه عذابا لا أعذبه أحدا من العالمين. وإذ قال الله يا عيسى ابن مريم أأنت قلت للناس اتخذوني وأمي إلهين من دون الله قال سبحانك ما يكون لي أن أقول ما ليس لي بحق إن كنت قلته فقد علمته تعلم ما في نفسي ولا أعلم ما في نفسك إنك أنت علام الغيوب. ما قلت لهم إلا ما أمرتني به أن اعبدوا الله ربي وربكم وكنت عليهم شهيدا ما دمت فيهم فلما توفيتني كنت أنت الرقيب عليهم وأنت على كل شيء شهيد. إن تعذبهم فإنهم عبادك وإن تغفر لهم فإنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. قال الله هذا يوم ينفع الصادقين صدقهم لهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه ذلك الفوز العظيم. لله ملك السماوات والأرض وما فيهن وهو على كل شيء قدير. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض وجعل الظلمات والنور ثم الذين كفروا بربهم يعدلون هو الذي خلقكم من طين ثم قضى أجلا وأجل مسمى عنده ثم أنتم تمترون وهو الله في السماوات وفي الأرض يعلم سركم وجهركم ويعلم ما تكسبون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين فقد كذبوا بالحق لما جاءهم فسوف يأتيهم أنباء ما كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا من قبلهم من قرن مكناهم في الأرض وما لم نمكن لكم وأرسلنا السماء عليهم مدرارا وجعلنا الأنهار تجري من تحتهم فأهلكناهم بذنوبهم وأنشأنا من بعدهم قرنا آخرين ولو نزلنا عليك كتابا في قرطاس فلمسوه بأيديهم لقال الذين كفروا إن هذا إلا سحر مبين وقالوا لولا أنزل عليه ملك ولو أنزلنا ملكا لقضي الأمر ثم لا ينظرون ولو جعلناه ملكا ليجعلناه رجلا ولبسنا عليهم ما يلبسون لقد استهزئ برسل من قبلك فحاق بالذين سخروا منهم ما كانوا به يستهزئون قل سيروا في الأرض ثم انظر كيف كان عاقبة المكذبين كل من ما في السماوات والأرض قل الله كتب على نفسه الرحمة ليجمعنكم إلى يوم القيامة لا ريب فيه الذين خسروا أنفسهم فهم لا يؤمنون ولهم ما سكن في الليل والنهار وهو السميع العليم. قل غير الله أتخذ وليا فاطر السماوات والأرض وهو يطعم ولا يطعم. قل إني أمرت أن أكون أول من أسلم ولا تكونن من المشركين. قل إني أخاف إن عصيت ربي عذاب يوم عظيم. من يصرف عنه يومئذ فقد رحمه وذلك الفوز المبين. وإن يمسسك الله بضر فلا كاشف له إلا هو. وإن يمسسك بخير فهو على كل شيء قدير. وهو القاهر فوق عباده وهو الحكيم الخبير. قل أي شيء أكبر شهادة. قل الله شهيد بينني وبينكم وأوحي إلي هذا القرآن لأنذركم به ومن بلغ. أئنكم لتشهدون أن مع الله إلها أخرى. قل لا أشهد. قل إنما هو إله واحد وإنني بريء مما تشركون. الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يعرفونه كما يعرفون أبناءهم. الذين خسروا أنفسهم فهم لا يؤمنون. ومن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا أو كذب بآياته إنه لا تفلح الظالمين. ويوم نحشرهم جميعا ثم نقول للذين أشركوا أين شركاؤكم الذين كنتم تزعمون. ثم لم تكن فتنتهم إلا أن قالوا والله ربنا ما كنا مشركين. انظر كيف كذبوا على أنفسهم وضل عنهم ما كانوا يفترون. ومنهم من يستمع إليك وجعلنا على قلوبهم أكنة أن يفقهوه وفي آذانهم وقرا وإن يروا كل آية لا يؤمنون بها حتى إذا جاءوك يجادلونك يقول الذين كفروا إن هذا إلا أساطير الأولين. وهم ينهون عنه وينهون عنه وإن يلحقون إلا أنفسهم وما يشعرون. ولو ترى إذ وقفوا على النار فقالوا يا ليتنا نرد ولا نكذب بآيات ربنا ونكون من المؤمنين. بل بدا لهم ما كانوا يخفون من قبل ولو ردوا لعادوا لما نهوا عنه وإنهم لكاذبون. وقالوا إن هي إلا حياتنا الدنيا ونحن بمعبوثين. ولو ترى إذ وقفوا على ربهم قال أليس هذا بالحق؟ قالوا بلى وربنا. قال فذوقوا العذاب بما كنتم تكفرون. قد خسر الذين كذبوا بلقاء الله حتى إذا جاءتهم الساعة بغتة قالوا يا حسرتنا على ما فرطنا فيها وهم يحملون أوزارهم على ظهورهم فلا ساء ما يزرون. ما الحياة الدنيا إلا لعب وللدار الآخرة خير للذين يتقون أفلا تعقلون. قد نعلم إنه ليحزنك الذي يقولون فإنهم لا يكذبونك ولكن الظالمين بآيات الله يجحدون. ولقد كذبت رسل من قبلك فصبروا على ما كذبوا أوذوا حتى آتاهم نصرنا ولا مبدل لكلمات الله ولقد جاءك من نبأ المرسلين. إن كان كبر عليك إعراضهم فإن استطعت أن تبتغي نفعا في الأرض أو سلما في السماء فتأتيهم بآية ولو شاء الله لجمعهم على الهدى فلا تكونن من الجاهلين إنما يستجيب الذين يسمعون والموتى يبعثهم الله ثم إليه يرجعون وقالوا لولا نزل عليه آية من ربه قل إن الله قادر على أن ينزل آية ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون وما من دابة في الأرض ولا طائر يطير بجناحيه إلا أمثالكم وما فرطنا من الكتاب من شيء ثم إلى ربهم يحشرون والذين كذبوا بآياتنا ثم وبكم في الظلمات ومن يشاء الله يذل ومن يشاء يجعله على صراط مستقيم أرأيتكم إن أتاكم عذاب الله أو أتتكم الساعة غير الله تدعون إن كنتم صادقين بل إياه تدعون فيكشف ما تدعون إليه إن شاء
صدق الله العلي العظيم.
صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Ahsan, Brother Pervez. And Jazakallah, Brother Ibrahim, for the recitation of the Holy Quran. We have, Alhamdulillah, we are excited to have Mubarak, who has joined us from Los Angeles, California. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
We pray that you and your family are doing well.
Likewise, inshallah, first of all, Ramadan Mubarak. May Allah, inshallah, accept your a'mal, your fasting, your Quran citation, inshallah.
Allahi ameen.
هماهنگه.
So just to let the viewers know, Shaykh Ahmed Mubarak, he will be speaking on the topic of healing through Quran, inshallah, from tonight till the 10th of Ramadan. And Shaykh, we are really excited to have you and honored that you have joined us. And we look forward to your lectures. And that, without further ado, I will request you to, inshallah, start your lecture.
Thank you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه وحبيبه حفظ سره ومبلغ رسالاته حبيب إله العالمين وخاتم النبيين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين الهداة المهديين سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأراضين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الناس قد جاءتكم موعظة من ربكم وشفاء لما في الصدور وهدى ورحمة للمؤمنين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you and your loved ones and your family, you're at the best state of health and iman. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of our efforts, all of our a'mal, especially our fasting in the month of Ramadan. For the next few nights, I chose this topic specifically because of the ayah I recited from Surah Yunus, verse 57. And that is that what's the purpose of Quran? Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descended and assign the final miracle and the greatest miracle of the final religion to be a book and to be this great source of revelation, Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly indicate, Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind, and this is the address of this ayah is not just the believers, it's all humanity. Because ultimately the purpose of religion and the purpose of Islam and Quran was guidance for all humanity, not just for a portion, not just for a selection of human race, for all humanity. O mankind, قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. Indeed, and for sure, certainly it came to you an advice from your Lord. And the word advice is being used because as human beings, we are always constantly in need of reminders. And a lot of what we know and a lot of what we learn in Quran are based on our inherent nature. It's not new piece of information. Rather, as Quran said to Holy Prophet, إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُذَكِّرٌ لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ. These are just reminders that deep down we know most of what Quran is preaching. We know what Islam is preaching, but we need reminders because of ghafla, because of heedlessness. We go through, unfortunately, ignoring our inherent nature, ignoring the call from within. So Allah said, this book is an advice from your Lord, وَشِفَاءٌ لِمَا فِي الصُّدُورِ, and it's a healing for your heart. Sudur and sadr, there are layers for the soul. The word qalb in Quran, according to Allama Tabatabai and many other mufassirin, the word qalb is translated as heart, but its reference in Quran is the soul. And for soul, there are layers. One of them, again, is sadr and is translated as breast, what contained in your breast, and the heart and soul. And of course, we're not talking about the physiological and biological heart, we're referring to the soul. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that this book is healing for your heart, is healing for your soul. وَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and it is a source of guidance, and it is a source of mercy for the faithful and the believers. So that's why, inshallah, not just this Ramadan, every day of our life, when we are taking the Quran, when we pick up the Quran, our perception toward this book should be a book of healing, as a book of guidance, that through guidance we will find the healing power of Quran. But before we go to this subject, I would like to just, a bit of a reminder we needed, and that's since the beginning of Ramadan, not just this year, every year I had so many questions regarding that. What are the actions that invalidators of fasting, or they basically render somebody's fast to be void? How we can avoid that? And it's important. There are ahkam, there are Islamic laws, and it is important to make sure that our fasting is correct. But it's also very critical to think about, in addition to correction, in addition that our fasting must be sahih, must be correct. It also, we have to ponder and reflect about the acceptance of our fasting. And inshallah, our a'mal are accepted, right? And maqbool or qabul, that's why we say, may Allah accept your fasting, may Allah accept your dua. Or for Hajj, you say, hajjukum maqbool, inshallah. The word maqbool is that not only we have to perform our religious duties and prayers and worship correctly, but we have to also assure that it's going to be worthy of acceptance by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they are not tainted or corrupted. And in Quran, Allah talks about this maqbuliyat or qabul or acceptance, which it is very important. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when reminds us of the story of Abel and Cain and Habil and Qabil in Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that in the story of Habil and Qabil, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us this introduction to the story that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with saying, وَاتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ ابْنَيْ آدَمَ بِالْحَقِّ. Relate to them truly the account of Adam's two sons. And the word naba, again, this is one of those, I think, details and intricacies of Quran. And people are asking me, should we recite Quran in Arabic or English? And I always tell them, you don't have to choose between these two, you have to combine them. But of course, if let's say your time is limited and you only is one, then again, understanding of Quran is very important. That's what is the purpose of this book, to be understood, to be reflected, and to be followed. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. That we have to reflect on this book. But at the same time, this reflection on the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it becomes much easier when we become connected with its original form, which is Arabic. Quran was preserved in the Arabic form. That was the way it was revealed. That was the way all the Ahlul Bayt and Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they recited Quran in that language. So it's important to not ignore the importance of the original form of Quran, in addition to understanding Quran through reading the translations. But for example, one of those beauties that we can see in Arabic language is that the word naba is being translated as the news. But also there's another word in Arabic, which again, probably in any, in Farsi, Urdu also, they use that word for news as well as khabar. But there's a difference. Khabar in the language, in lughat, it refers to a type of news that could be important or could be irrelevant and non-important. But when we say naba, is a specific type of news. It's a very significant, crucial and important news. That's why we have Surah Naba. عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عَنِ النَّبَإِ الْعَظِيمِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the very, very important incident and a very significant news. So in this ayah, Allah said, this is an important news. This is an important piece of information regarding the story of Habil and Qabil alayhi salam. So the word naba, it has that, it's conveyed the importance of this lesson. And what is that lesson that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, tell them the account of the two sons of Adam, إِذْ قَرَّبَا قُرْبَانًا, when both of them, they offered offerings. They offered something as a charity before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَتُقُبِّلَ مِنْ أَحَدِهِمَا وَلَمْ يُتَقَبَّلْ مِنَ الْآخَرِ. But it was accepted from one brother, which it was Habil alayhi salam, and it was not accepted, it was rejected from another brother, which was Qabil. And in traditions, we have that one of the reasons that one of the brothers' offering was accepted was because that one, they offered, Habil offered what was the high quality of his produce, because both of them were in agriculture, and the Qabil offered the low quality, the leftovers, or whatever was considered the low value of his produce and his agriculture produce. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that's why one of the offering was accepted, another wasn't. And then of course Allah said, قَالَ لَأَقْتُلَنَّكَ. Instead of looking for the flaw of his own action, Qabil blamed his brother's success for that. That jealousy, unfortunately, we see in every society and even within families. And unfortunately, when somebody is achieving and they have a lot of accomplishment, people, rather than focusing on the flaws of their own action, they blame others, or they always justify their mistakes. So in this case, that قَالَ لَأَقْتُلَنَّكَ. Qabil said to his brother, for sure I will kill you. This قَالَ لَا أَقْتُلَنَّكَ, the words, the la in Arabic and the noon, the mushaddad at the end, these are all about emphasis, about ta'keed. It's for sure I'm going to hurt you. This is a very serious threat that a brother is making another brother. But the response of Habil alayhi salam, it's that, it shows that why his offering was accepted. It showed his character. Habil said, قَالَ إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. In response, he said, Allah accept only from those who are God conscious, from those who are virtuous and pious. If somebody have taqwa, Allah will accept it from them. So I said this ayah because in month of Ramadan, when you look at the ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about fasting, This also talks about taqwa. This is the beauties of Quran. The more and more you recite Quran and the more you ponder about it, you find these links between different verses. And you see that all of them are talking about one theme. There's a network of all these different bits and pieces that when you put them together, it teaches us this Quranic lifestyle, this divine guidance that if somebody's looking for answers, you can find it, but it requires a bit of reflection. So in that ayah in Surah Baqarah, Allah said, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامِ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Indeed, we decreed upon you, we obliged you the same way we did it with the previous nations, this concept, this command of fasting. But the objective of fasting is this, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, that you may become God conscious. That the objective of fasting is taqwa. So we just learned that if we have taqwa, our deeds will be accepted. So in the month of Ramadan, inshallah, let's also pay attention and be aware of the importance of acceptance of our a'mal. Not just that my amal is accepted, because people ask me, what if somebody lose their temper during the month of Ramadan? Bad akhlaq, bad manners, su'ul khulq, or what if I lie? What if I gossip? What if I backbite? There's so many, questions people ask, and the answer to that is, what if I, God forbid, engage in a haram relationship with someone, and I talk to a non-mahram? What if I watch something haram? And the answer to all those is simple. Yes, it does not break your fast. It means that the shell, means the actions that invalidate fasting are certain, activities that we have to refrain from, such as eating, drinking, attributing lies to Allah, the Prophet, or, when it comes to, the list continues. But when it comes to acceptance of our amal, taqwa is the key. Somebody who's God conscious, somebody that they are vigilant of their actions, their words, their thought. So for sure, if somebody, God forbid, commit all these sins, how that fast would be accepted, only Allah knows. That's why we have in traditions that there are those individuals that all they gain from fasting of Ramadan is thirst and hunger, nothing else. But those that they are fasting, and as well as their stomach, Imam Ali, the tradition said that صوم القلب خير من صوم اللسان, or صيام القلب خير من صوم اللسان, that fasting of the heart and soul is better than the fasting of the tongue. وصوم اللسان خير من صوم البطن, and the fasting of the tongue is better than the fasting of the stomach. So the highest value, highest type of fasting is somebody's soul is fasting. It doesn't let sins and disobedience of Allah taint the soul. And then the second degree, the second valuable form of fasting is when the tongue is fasting. The tongue is not utilized for disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And lastly is the stomach fasting. And when Imam alayhi salam described how somebody's heart can be fasting, Imam alayhi salam said, at-tafakkur fil atham, is to refrain this pondering and distractions and disobedience and in crimes and sins that somebody can deal with. So I said all this to come to this point that in Ramadan, inshallah, when we recite Quran, when we fast, when we do all, dua iftitah, all the a'mal, inshallah, make sure that our a'mal also are delivered properly, that they're not just, that's what the Quran said, man ja'a bil hasanati falahu ashru amsara. If somebody delivered their good deeds, then the 10 times is the minimum that they will receive in reward. But ja'a means that not doing it, merely doing an action is not enough. On the top of the action, somebody also have to think about the importance, how somebody's action also is going to be delivered without being corrupted, without being destroyed. As tradition, we know, and we, in the terminology of Quran, it said, habtul amal, is somebody's action to be destroyed and to fade because of the sins. So good deeds is a system of interaction between our good deeds and between the sins. Innal hasanat yudhibna sayyi'at. Our good deeds, they work as, that washing power, purifying power of the sin, replacing the sin. And sins also have the same kind of power of destroying the good deeds. So it's very, very important, as I said once again, to be concerned about our acceptance of our amal as well. But this acceptance, remember, our faith is a system of different commands coming together. It's a machine that have different parts that they have to work in harmony in order to have a functioning machine and system. And Islam is about that fasting is part of this system. Prayers is part of this fasting, part of this system. Acquiring and working for a halal and lawful income is part of this system. Husnul khulq and well manners is part of this system. Caring for others, caring for your neighbor is part of the system. And again, so on and so forth, that there's so many other parts that contribute to having a healthy religion, healthy faith. So I've been hearing this a lot, that people say, because especially right now, a lot of people are in, quarantine and stay-at-home orders are in place. So because of that, probably some people have more time, to spend this Ramadan for worship and obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I've had people that they are parents, that they have children, especially young children at home. They may think that, okay, what about me? And that right now I have to be a teacher and I have to be, all the other roles that I had. Now there are additional roles because of the schools being closed and shut down and all that. So don't forget that when we are doing what we have to do, still we are in the process of obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When somebody, a father or a mother, they are working for the well-being and the raising, inshallah, pious and virtuous children, the efforts we put into raising those children, they will be rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without a doubt. So if I don't have the time that maybe somebody who's single or somebody who don't have young children and don't have the same kind of busy schedule as I have, don't think that, God forbid, I lost this. It's that is a different form. La yukallifullah nafsan illa wus'aha. What we have in life is the burden that on our shoulders, what we can handle. So my time and how much I can put time and invest time in certain things is based on the schedule I have. So please understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just. That's His promise, that's His fairness and justice, that everybody will be rewarded and compensated based on their efforts. And again, your efforts and for your family will be rewarded. Do not ignore the importance of works that you do for your family, as we have in many traditions in that regard. So that was a bit of a long introduction to this subject, which I thought it was necessary for us to remember that in addition to thinking about ahkam and the rules, we have to also, inshallah, ponder and think about how perform a fasting and any act of worship that is maqbool and accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because again, we have so many verses in that regard that there are people that they do something, as Quran said, هل أتاك حديث الغاشية وجوه يومئذ خاشعة عاملة ناصبة. That when Allah in Surah Ghashiyah described their category of people, that they're happy with their actions, that their faces is enlightened and happy and joyous and joyful. And then you have other category of people that their face is humiliated, they're upset. And the reason for that is amilatun nasiba, that they were active, they've done things, they were productive, but nasiba, but that action unfortunately was in vain. That's why we talk about the subject of healing through the Quran. Because once the soul, unfortunately, start getting plagued by diseases, spiritual diseases, and what we know as amrad, then it will definitely impact the acceptance of the amal. Because, again, Quran clearly said, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ. On the day of judgment, nobody's wealth, nobody's children, heritage will benefit anyone. No one. Their wealth and money and the children will not be a use to them. إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهُ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. Except, there's exception, those that they come before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they present a sound heart, a healthy heart, an untainted heart. That is the person that their efforts of even money and donations and children and all that will prosper and will benefit them. So it's important, inshallah, to think about it, that how to deal with these spiritual illnesses that on daily basis we may confront. We may deal with them because they are, some of them we were created with. Some of these spiritual illnesses is part of our nature of, because as Imam Ali alayhi salam said that the man is a hybrid version of an angel and an animal. We merged, we have the animal side, the desires, the hawa, and we have the angelic side, which is the aql and the reason. And Imam alayhi salam said if one side takes over the other, it makes the outcome to be very different. There are those that they let their desires take over the reason, and so the animalistic side takes over and takes charge and make decisions, or the angelic side, the aql, takes charge and the desires will be submissive and follow the rules and the guidelines of the reason and aql. So we have to be aware of these spiritual illnesses. So in order to have an understanding of some of the verses of Quran and this subject, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Isra, and I want you to know these are connected principles regarding how Quran could be used as a source of healing. Because this is, again, one of the beauties of Quran when you think and when you reflect on them. Not that you bring your own interpretation. No, you try to understand and try to digest the message of the Quran without adding your own intake or personal opinion. Sometimes, again, as we have tafsir bil-ra'i, is that when people interpret Quran and they have some kind of mind frame and they try to fit Quran to their own mind frame. Rather, try to understand Quran. That what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tried to say using the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, using ahadith and tradition, that's one of the best way to approach it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in verse 82 of Surah Isra said, وَنُنَزَّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. We just said similar ayah in Surah Yunus. Allah said, indeed we sent down in the Sunnah Quran to be a cure, to be a remedy, to be a mercy for the faithful. For those who have iman, this is what the usage of Quran will be. But وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. But if God forbid somebody is a zalim, somebody is a wrongdoer, is oppressor, transgressor, zulm again have different forms, the wrong against self, wrong against people, against environment, against animals, against everything, and wrong against Allah. So Allah said, if somebody is a zalim and they come to Quran, وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. It increase only in loss. That if zalim comes to Quran, not only they cannot find guidance, but they find more increase in their misguidance and in loss. Why? Because the heart is corrupted by dhulm. So it is very clear in the understanding of Quran that hudan lil muttaqin, that it is guidance for the people who have taqwa. And the enemy of taqwa, one of the greatest obstacles in the path of taqwa and piety, is dhulm, is oppression, is any form of transgression, disobedience. So in teachings of Islam, we have that one of the greatest form of dhulm is dhulm against self. Is everyone who commit a sin, with taking that step, with making that decision, they hurt themselves. The same way that Quran said that physically somebody should not place themselves in a position of destruction. وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. Do not cast yourself into path of destruction or into destruction. That's why self-harm is forbidden. It's also true about spiritual health as well. That when somebody commits a sin, then the disobedience of Allah is of self-harm. That's why in Dua Kumail we confess that ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي. Ya Allah, I wronged myself. So how somebody can hurt themselves? As I said, when somebody commits a sin, when they lie, when they eat haram, when they watch something haram, or so on again, etc. Any example you can imagine. Before harming anything or anyone, the one that is paying the biggest price is us. We are the one that receiving the highest amount of damage to begin with. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if you're doing something, remember you're doing it for your own sake. That if somebody is purifying themselves, if somebody is grateful, if somebody is struggling, all of them is ultimately the benefit of that supposed to come back to themselves. Allahu Samad, remember that Allah is not in need. Allah is self-sufficient. Qa'imun bidhat. Allah is not dependent on anything or anyone. And our actions, it's supposed to benefit us. And when we are getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because sometimes when people translate something in English, said, I pray for the sake of Allah, or I do this for the sake of Allah. Just, I want you to understand that for the sake of Allah doesn't mean that because Allah, God forbid, need it. It means I do it to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And why do I get closer to Allah? Because the closer we get, the stronger we will be, the more joyful we will be. When we are reunited with our source, with our origin, that's the natural way of things. And the more distance we get from the origin, the more distance we get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the unhealthy we will be, unhappier we will be. And again, there you can see examples of that. That somebody they indulge themselves into drinking or into partying or anything to somehow experience, or even addiction and drugs, in order to experience some kind of, serenity or joy. And for somebody who have none of that, but they have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we have Hazrat Zainab salamullah alayha beautifully said, this is why we want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because once you're closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing can break you. She responded after the taunting of Yazid, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila, I saw nothing but beauty. How is that possible for somebody to go through that tragedy and still say, I saw nothing but beauty? That the strength itself, that power of being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it has that impact on your perception of life. That you find joy and peace regardless of which status, which situation, which financial situation you're in. Again, if I want to give you an example, there was a lot of misinformation during this pandemic and dealing with the COVID-19, with this virus. There's a lot of misinformation out there. One of them was that the reason of people contracting this virus was somehow related to 5G technology, and their 5G towers were literally were placed on fire in UK and some other places, and people were so aggressively saying that this is the problem. And how many of that, there are how many actual studies debunk that, and how many even countries who did not even have, forget about 5G technology, they don't even have 4G, and they're still have this pandemic, dealing with this pandemic. But aside from all that, one thing about 5G technology is that this frequency, the range of it is not as strong and is not as useful as it should be. It means that in order to get that speed that you're looking for, you have to be very close to the source, to the tower. It's just, I don't know exact, range, but it's very, very limited range. So that's why they're thinking about how to, somehow upgrade this technology, or how to come up with the solution, rather than just having multiple poles in a very, very short amount of distances. That's why taqarrub ilallah means in order to get a good reception of guidance, good reception of joy, good reception of understanding the meaning of life, we need to be closer to source, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we say qurbatan ilallah. I perform this prayer, I do this fasting for sake of Allah. Again, I said to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is not of course, geographical distance, or we're not talking about any physical closeness. Rather, we're talking about that spiritual one. So it's important to remember that we need our amal to be accepted, and in order our amal to be accepted, we need our amal to have that ability to be delivered without corruption, without dhulm. So one dhulm was against self. So that's, if somebody is a sinner, the more sin somebody commit, the greater will be the veil between that person and Quran's guidance and Quran's healing power. In the sermon of Sha'baniyah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which I encourage you to read, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam give a description of Ramadan, that those famous ahadith that breathing and breath of a mu'min in this month is glorification of Allah, is tasbih. Sleeping of somebody who's fasting it will count as worship. These are mentioned in the sermon of Sha'bani of the Prophet. But there is an ending which is very, very beautiful. Is that after Rasulullah said in this month how to behave, how to act, be kind to youngsters, be respectful to your elders. And then at the end, Imam Ali alayhi salam asked a question. Imam is one of the audience. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he asked Rasulullah, this is the gate of the knowledge of Rasulullah's city of knowledge, right? And remember that how Amir al-Mu'minin lead us toward the city with asking the right question. Because Rasulullah talks about the importance of Quran, importance of charity, importance of so many good things. He asked, Ya Rasulullah, ما أفضل الأعمال في هذا الشهر? What is the most valuable action and the most valuable conduct that somebody can do in this month? So this is a good question, right? That how can I know what to do? Because I have options at the same time. Which one is the best one? Which one is the basically the most valuable? And Rasulullah's answer to Imam Ali alayhi salam is, Ya Ali, أفضل الأعمال في هذا الشهر الورع عن محارم الله. The greatest action in this month is to protect yourself, to refrain from committing any act of disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So staying away from haram, considered the most valuable action in the month of Ramadan. Why? Because going back to just the ayah, this is the way hadith and Quran together, Ahlul Bayt and Quran together guide us. Because Quran said, وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. So if somebody even recite in Quran in the month of Ramadan, fast in the month of Ramadan, but God forbid they are also indulged and they submerge in sins and disobedience of Allah, they will gain nothing but increase in loss. So Rasulullah said, protect yourself, to stay away from disobedience of Allah in this month. Because especially once a sin becomes a habit, inshallah, in coming nights, I'll talk about the importance of knowing habits, the cycle of habit, how to deal with it, how to break it, know the psychology of habits. But it's very, very difficult to quit bad habits. And Ramadan could be, inshallah, a good starting point for us. That somebody is unfortunately used to a foul language, or somebody used to bad manners and bad akhlaq, or wasting time, or watching a lot of we call lahw and la'ib. It means the vain and pointless media. That's a good time to start changing that habit. So now we come and talk about Quran as a source of healing. That's one form of dhulm against self. So any sin is a dhulm against self. And in the teaching of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, just remember that anything you do, you're doing it for your own sake. Remember that this is the language of Quran over and over. And one example is this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَن يَشْكُرْ فَإِنَّمَا يَشْكُرُ لِنَفْسِهِ. Remember that Allah is not in need of your shukr. Even if you're ungrateful, if all humanity are ungrateful, is not going to affect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing affects him. He is the absolute being and a perfect being. So Allah said, if you are grateful, فَإِنَّمَا يَشْكُرُ لِنَفْسِهِ. You are doing it for your own sake. وَمَنْ كَفَرَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. And if somebody decide to be ungrateful, turn their back, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed is all sufficient and He is He is worthy of praise. He is Hamid. It is not in need of people's shukr. Another example. Man amila salihan falinafsih wa man asa'a fa'alayha. This is the language of Quran. You're doing it for your own sake. You're doing it for your own sake. That if you're righteous, if you do good deeds, you're doing it for your own sake. And if you commit a sin, you have to, it's the burden of it, the detriment of it will be on you. وَمَنْ جَاهَدَ فَإِنَّمَا يُجَاهِدُ لِنَفْسِهِ. If somebody strives, if somebody is struggling, they're doing it for their own sake. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَغَنِيٌّ عَنِ الْعَالَمِينَ. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no need of the creatures. So I just wanted to become familiar with that how we are the only beneficiary of doing anything good and staying away from haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghani, Allahu Samad. Is absolutely independent from any form of needs that we can imagine. So dhulm against self. So remind ourselves that we're doing it for our own sake. So when we fast, people said we are guests of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're doing it for Allah. Remember, just saying it for Allah, sometimes our thought processes could create misconception that, oh, I do this, maybe God forbid, why Allah wants me to do this, why Allah wants me to do this for our own sake. Second was dhulm against others, any form of aggression and harm against others. It is what we know as haqqun nas. And this is not just people, even we have environment, even animals. We have that responsibility to preserve them. We have tradition that if somebody cut down a branch of a tree with no reason, it is as if they severed a wing of an angel. So environment in our teaching have an important place. So damaging it considered a form of dhulm. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. That the corruption we see around us, it goes back to the way that we treated the nature and the environment. So that dhulm also leads and impacts the way we are receiving the healing power of Quran. The dhulm against others, including nature, including animals, and of course humanity. That's why Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, Al-mu'min a'zam hurmatan min al-Ka'bah, that the honor and sanctity of a believer is greater than the house of God. If somebody, God forbid, they somehow disrespect a mu'min, they cause harm, could be abuse, a verbal abuse. I remember your wife, your husband, in the month of Ramadan, as they're fasting, they're a clear example of a mu'min. And God forbid if somebody with their short temper, with lack of proper, language, lack of etiquette, is going to disrespect and humiliate them. Ask yourself that how that kind of dhulm is going to affect my Quran recitation and my fasting. Especially right now, inshallah, I pray that our communities are, inshallah, more immune to the issue of domestic violence. But just thinking about that, inshallah, help us to remember that any kind of dhulm, especially the time of dhulm, as Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam said, that one of the final will of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam was this: إِيَّاكَ وَالظُّلْمَ مَنْ لَا نَاصِرَ لَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. be aware. Stay away from any form of dhulm, any form of oppression, any form of harm. Especially someone who has no supporter, no assistant, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember that sometimes our family member could be that if I oppress my family, my husband, my wife, my child, sometimes usually when people have problem, family is when they feel safe. So that's the second kind of dhulm. And lastly, the dhulm against Allah, inna shirka la dhulmun azim, polytheism, associating anyone, any partner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's the greatest form of dhulm against Allah, any form of shirk. So inshallah, I will elaborate on this last one, which is about shirk. So alhamdulillah, we are followers of the Quran, followers of Islam. So ideologically, we believe in Tawheed and monotheism, but there is a form of shirk that Quran in Surah Yusuf said, وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرٌ بِاللَّهِ وَهُمْ مُشْرِكُونَ. There's so many mu'mins that they could experience a level of shirk, a hidden shirk, which is inshallah one of the first spiritual illnesses that we will elaborate and we will discuss tomorrow. So in summary, our discussion tonight was about the power of Quran, the healing power of Quran, the purpose of Quran, and its connection with taqwa. And in order to make sure our a'mal and our actions, including fasting, be accepted and maqbool, we need taqwa. And the first step to acquire taqwa and first step to receive the lights of guidance of Quran is to combat dhulm in any form of dhulm and any form of oppression, transgression. It is a great obstacle between us and between the guidance of Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq and ability to be able to recite Quran with reflection, with understanding, and ability to exercise and implement teachings of Quran, teaching of the Prophet and his family. Because Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they are the embodiment of the Quran. They are the talking and the living Quran. And the more and more we learn from them, we see how intertwined these two worthy things that Prophet left after himself, Kitab Allah wa Itrati. They're intertwined. As Prophet said, that they will not separate from each other. They will not disengage. They will be together. And inshallah, in the month of Ramadan, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to benefit from the light of Quran and from the guidance of Ahlul Bayt, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah, Shaykh. Enlightening lecture. And inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow at the same time.
Jazakumullah. Thank you.
And for our viewers now, just a reminder, after the iftar, we will have the Dua Kamal program at 9:30. So we will inshallah start with Dua Iftitah and then followed by Dua Kamal recitation. We will have Brother Saeed, inshallah, do the recitation of Dua Kamal, and Brother Mahmoud Imami will do the recitation or Dua Iftitah. So please tune into our YouTube channel and we'll see you there. Assalamu alaikum. Hafiz.